If you want to build wealth over the long term as a medical professional, you need more than a monthly cash flow tracking system. This is the end of fiscal quarter routine that I have used for years to go from $161,000 in student loan debt paid off to millionaire as a PA. This is every 3 months, and the purpose isn't to be in the weeds with your everyday transactions, but to make sure that the big needle moving things are happening to create the long term future that you're looking for. It's easy to remember. The system is called BANG, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. The first thing is a B, right? That stands for bring. Bring your financial partner into a genuine, scheduled sit down conversation. If you do money by yourself, you may consider an accountability partner, a trusted long term friend that you could bring into this conversation, maybe without sharing any account specifics, but just to have a conversation with you about your goals and where you're headed. If you have a long term partner or a spouse, this needs to be a joint conversation. Even if you keep your finances separate, having these conversations will improve your long-term financial success and probably your relationship success too, but what do I know, right? I've only been with my partner for 15 years. So, B, bring, have a conversation, scheduled 45 to 60-minute time block for this. The A is review your asset allocation. This comes in two ways. The first is what we most often think of when we think about an asset allocation, which is really someone's stock bond portfolio. Now, there's a lot of different ways to track this. I used to manually create this in Excel and do this manually myself, which took quite a bit of time. Finally, I decided to work smarter, not harder, and now I use tools like Personal Capital's dashboard, now under Empower, that will automatically track my asset allocation across all investment accounts. If you have one account, it's super easy, right? The dashboard on the custodian's website will probably tell you your asset allocation. But if you're an avid investor, you probably have 5 or 6 or even 7 or more accounts open that you're using to invest. And so you need to know what your asset allocation is across the entire board. I'm not suggesting that you fiddle with your asset allocation every 3 months. You may be an annual portfolio rebalancer, but you should look at it, know what it is, and make sure that you're pacing with what you are intending to. Now, this is a totally made up asset allocation. By no means is this a recommendation for you, but in this example, in someone's portfolio, their public equity portfolio, right? They might have 40% US stock, 30% international exposure, 20% bonds, 8% REIT allocation. Obviously, again, completely made up. This would vary for you based on your age, your risk tolerance, your goals, etc. First thing to look at is this part of asset allocation. Now, this is the other piece that I like to look at that I think doesn't get talked about enough. This is a breakdown of your all in assets. Now, if your only modality to date for building wealth is, for example, just public equity investing in the stock market, then the last screen will probably give you a pretty good sense of your assets. But if you are buying investment properties, you're doing private equity investing, or other asset classes, you may have assets that don't fall into that last pie chart. This is a really cool way to get a 30,000 view of your genuine asset allocation outside of just your publicly traded portfolio. These are, again, totally made up numbers, but you can see the point. You would go through and break down, where am I currently at for every single asset category? And then where do I want to be? Now, this type of graph doesn't reflect any type of liability or debt. So if you have a mortgage on an investment property or a primary residence, that's not reflected in this. This is just an asset breakdown, but it still gives you an idea of where you're at. For example, in this made up starting position, this person has an orange, right? They're depreciating assets. Now, what is that? That's like a car or a boat. Those are things that, like, they don't build you wealth, they don't generate cash flow. Honestly, they're just kind of, um, well, money sucks, right? Not a genuine, real pro on your net worth statement. So you can see 34% of all this person's assets are depreciating assets. This is obviously not an ideal allocation. And so maybe you have a goal allocation set for yourself. In this example, this person doesn't own a primary residence, which is totally fine, but they'd like to own investment real estate. And so this might be their breakdown of their goal allocation. And you can see in their goal allocation that the depreciating assets has shrunk to a really small piece of the pie because they have so many income generating assets and appreciating assets. However, the actual dollar amount hasn't really changed, right? It isn't to say sell your car, go buy a worse car. It's to say build the income producing assets up around it so that you actually have positive assets on the net worth statement that are going to grow independent of you. And that car becomes a much smaller representation of your total assets. This is the second part of A. So we have B, bring your significant other to the conversation or your financial partner. A, asset allocation, both from a public equity standpoint and a big 30,000 foot view standpoint. N is update your net worth statement. So this is a totally mandatory piece for every single person who wants to build wealth. Like, you have to know what your net worth is. And really, it ties in nicely with the last slide. If you have a net worth statement, coming up with this is very easy. You already have those numbers readily available to you. So this is an example of a system. Again, I built in Excel. I've used for a long time. It's super easy to use. You would have cash and cash equivalents here. When I put real personal property, again, that's like what you would classically think of as a house. Other things could fall in there, but classically that would be your primary residence, house, cash and cash equivalents. Note here, you have to know if your HSA account's invested or not, and which piece is invested versus in the checking allocation to know where the balance should go there. This person in this made up example, they are only using a 401k at this time. That's their only in retirement account asset. They don't have any other investments at this time. This is their car balance. This is what the private sale would be. And then this is the loan on the vehicle. You see student loan debt and a personal loan reflected here for an all-in net worth of negative 77,000. Very common in our world, right? When you have six-figure student loan debt plus your net worth may be negative for a while. But I still remember to this day, the day that we went from negative to positive, like $1 crossed the zero mark. And after, honestly, a lot of different money milestones, that's still one of my favorite. And then there's some financial necessities you need to look at. Down here at the bottom, I put them in here as a reminder to make sure they're taken care of. One, term life insurance, 10 to 12x annual income if you have anyone relying on you financially in any way. Own occupation, long-term disability coverage if you're a medical professional that's highly paid and highly specialized, and some type of estate plan if you have any dependents whatsoever. Those are the quick and dirty little reminders for yourself every fiscal quarter of, do we have the insurance we need? Is the big picture taken care of, right? Like, if we have kids, are the kids taken care of? Those are the kind of questions that when you look at what is important, they're incredibly high on any importance ranking. But when you look at what is urgent, those things are never urgent. And so in the chaos of worlds that we live in, they tend to fall by the wayside. So B is bring your partner to the table. A is allocation, twofold. N is net worth statement. That brings us to G. G is goals. Now, I think every single person needs written money goals. Annual goals are fine, but they don't create urgency. Quarterly goals allow you to really very cohesively break down, if this is a quarterly goal, what do I need to do every single month? Because you just divide, right? Just divide by 3 and you know. And so by setting quarterly goals, you create urgency, you create a situation where it's very easy in your head to backtrack to what I need to do every single month to hit that mark. And then I threw an exclamation point at the end because genuinely you should celebrate your wins. Now, I believe the best way to celebrate yourself and measure progress is to use a foundational structure that I actually learned from a book called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan, where rather than going, okay, here I am at point A, there is where I want to be at point B, you make a lot of moves towards point B, and then you look at yourself and you go, I'm not anywhere near B. I'm mad at myself. I suck. I'm going to go ahead and give up because I'm discouraged. Rather than doing that, you walk from point A to wherever you are, probably not all the way to point B, and then you stop and you turn around and you measure back from where you started. So rather than always looking at the gap between, I wanted to get all the way to this goal, I didn't quite make it, you look at, okay, what did I achieve, right? How far did I go? And then you turn around and you keep walking towards point B. If you keep that modality in your head, it'll allow you to continue to work towards your goals, to set bigger goals that maybe you can't even achieve, but then push yourself to go further than you thought you could without the discouragement and the disappointment that can come with setting the big goals, right? The stretch goals that you genuinely may not meet. As a human, I set a lot of goals. I rarely achieve any of them because they're always really outlandish. But if you continue to turn around and measure the progress from where you started, you can walk that road for a long time. And that staying power in the world of money will allow you to build a lot of wealth. So that's it. End of quarter routine to implement. Bang. BANG. Easy to remember. If you don't know what to do at the end of every single month, watch my other video on CLAP, which is my end of every single month routine to make sure that enough money is going to financial progress and that the day-to-day nitty-gritty is all working out to achieve the big long-term goals.